Alright, so this is the process that I use to get the oil of metal, and also I've come to understand another step of the process. So first here we have a bag full of rusty iron. Now if you can get an oxide of your metal, that's the best thing. You can use, regular metal, and I'm looking into an electrolysis method, so that's more of a modern version. Of course, if you know enough chemistry, you probably understand how that works already. But anyway, so here I have put the rusty iron into this jar, and I've also added a hydrochloric, which is the acid that I am using to dissolve this, because the intention of the first step is to get a dissolved metal, so the metal in solution. And of course, your acids that you can use is there's sulfuric, there's hydrochloric, there's acetic acid, which is vinegar, and there's a few others. And also what you want to add is a hydrogen peroxide, which helps to oxidize the metal. Even if you add a oxidized metal, which means like a rusty or an ash of the metal, it's easier to keep it oxidized. I think that's how it works if you add a hydrogen peroxide to it. So here I have my hydrochloric and my hydrogen peroxide, and I've added them, and you can see it's starting to like bubble up a little bit, right? And throughout the process of about a week, I would continuously keep stirring this, and ideally, if you could actually, you'd keep it heated. You keep it heated to keep the reaction going as much as you can. I don't fully understand the ways to optimize dissolving metals in acids for this kind of version of chemistry, but if anyone does know, please do tell me. Now, here is a bit later on, where this is like a couple months later because I didn't have the time. In the middle, we can see the jar I pre-prepared. To the left is actually I electrolyzed iron for a couple days, and then used just vinegar and I used hydrochloric and hydrogen peroxide, and it didn't really yield as strong or as dark a red liquid. So I kind of assumed maybe it wasn't that good, or maybe I just didn't get enough of the electrolyzed material. So I haven't fully understand how to do the electrolysis method, but I'm sure there is one. And then to the right is just the ashes and the stuff from the last experiments. Don't worry about that. So here I have my setup. Of course, it's just a chemistry stand with a weight on it to make sure it doesn't fall next to the stove, and of course my my retort with a flask. And of course, this isn't sealed here; it allows some gases to fall off, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad. If you do it slow enough, it's fine, right? So I've added the liquid there, and you can see it starts to distill, starting to simmer nicely. And you can see that the first distillate, which is the what we call the water portion of the experiment, because there's the earth, water, air, and fire portions, is beginning to condense in this flask. It's distilling down further, nearly done, and you can see it's getting more red or darker. Now this is the first portion. Now admittedly it has a little bit of the second, the air portion. That's why it's got a bit of a yellow tinge to it. But it's essentially the clear liquids. And this is it's an acidic, non-volatile, or at least semi-non-volatile. It's a little volatile. It's a portion of the liquids, which I say is the water portion, and this comes off first, so you want to save this. Once it starts, you see that like how in the flask it's getting kind of yellowy in there. That's when, and your liquid down here is very dark. That's how you know it's getting into the second stage of the air portions. So you can see here that it's like a much more like denser, smokier almost. It's like a white mist, and potentially this would need to be actually bubbled through liquid So maybe you could keep the first liquid and kind of bubble it through to make it a little bit better. But otherwise, if you do it like slow enough, which I actually didn't, it will condense. It'll still condense even if you do it kind of, I guess that's like a medium flame. So just to show you the yellow liquid, here it is, and it's very acidic, very volatile, and it's like I believe it's like some kind of strong hydrochloric. Okay, now this is where you can see in there that it's starting to dry. So this is getting onto the third stage, which is actually sublimation. And this is once there's no, or once you have pretty much distilled mostly all of the air portion off, and once it starts getting like red, like lasagna, you're onto the next third stage here. And here, finally, I was wondering, when is it going to happen? You know, do they screw it up? Will it actually happen? But finally, if you look into the flask, you can see the confetti sparks, and I believe that's like, I don't know, could be a plasma. It looks very beautiful, very interesting. And you can see here on the side, it's condensing or coagulating into the red oil, which is the fourth portion of fire. The fire element in this experiment, it's this red, almost like quintessence, like crystalline. It's the most refined part. And I believe after talking to the AIs, it's probably an anhydrous iron chloride, right? While the earth portion is, which is the alkaline ashes of the iron, is in the bottom there. I'll show that later. Here is after, and you can see it looks green actually. It's got a green, it's like black red, but also it looks very, very like a deep metallic green. The only way I could describe it's like a dragon's egg or something is the best way to put it. You know what I would imagine a dragon's egg look like. Looks like the camera doesn't really do it justice to see just how green it actually looks, which tells you it's probably an iron compound. Even though it's also black and red, it's just got different, you know, different sheens to it, I guess. Now, this actually, what happened is that I added water to this flask here, which is I'll talk about that in a minute, and then which mixed the red crystals, the fire compound, and the earth compound, the alkaline ashes. I believe it made a acid base reaction. I think that's like showing the ashes in liquid, and this is like the refined. This is like when I added the water to the ashes and the red stuff, and I was trying to refine out the red stuff, but I'm pretty sure I lowered its state, so to speak. And this is like the ashes, and you can see how metallic-y they look. Like it's like something you would paint a car with, right? Like, and then what I did is I simmered off, I all the water to try to like refine, and it looked it looked kind of milky, but then eventually it becomes red, like a deep red color again, as you can see. So actually, what I believe is the process now is that we have to take these four things, and the four things are, this is the water, right? This is the air, the yellow liquid, and then at the top is our fire, and at the bottom is the bottom here is our ashes. So these are our four components, and I believe you mix the water and the air so that the yellow and the clear liquids together to create a solvent. You probably don't add that much clear liquid, I don't know, depending on how much you want, right? And then you re-add it into here to dissolve everything and to react everything together. And I think that is a cycle of purification, and you just keep doing that. You just keep re-purifying it and re-distilling it. So distill off the liquids again. You just keep redoing that. You distill the clear, then you distill the yellow, and then you re-add those once it's sublimated, and over and over and over again, and eventually it will kind of unify into a singular. And that is essentially the alchemist process of making this oil, which I believe is also probably the philosopher's stone process. So yeah, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say by this. And if you have any comments, of course, do ask in the comment section. I'll try to explain it as best as I can. But otherwise, it's pretty simple. It's just as I said, it dissolve the metal into its solution state. It's liquid, like a liquid in solution. The salts in solution, as we did at the start, and then it's just like distilling off the liquids and distilling off the fire portion, the oil, that kind of like quintessence oil portion, and then re-adding them together and just continuously redoing that. And I'll do that eventually once I have the time, right? To see what it does or whatever. But I believe that is the process of creation of the philosopher's stone, or the metal oil, whatever you want to think about it as, right?